Welcome, everyone, to this deep dive, I guess you could say, into William Gaddis's The Recognitions. You've given us such a fascinating collection of excerpts to work with, and we're excited to unpack them with you.
Yeah, it's a really great novel. It grapples with these really weighty themes, art, religion, identity. But even in these small snippets that you've pulled out, we can see how these ideas are already taking shape.
Yeah, absolutely. And today we're going to be focusing on the idea of authenticity. How do the characters in these excerpts struggle with the pressure to conform? What does that tell us about their search for meaning?
It's a question that really resonates throughout Gaddis's work, and it's particularly striking in the excerpts you've chosen.
Right. It's almost as if each character is trying on different masks to figure out who they are in a world that's full of copies and imitations.
Exactly. And one of the most compelling examples of this struggle is Wyatt Gwyon, the central character in these excerpts.
Okay, so for anyone who needs a quick refresher, Wyatt grows up in this really unusual environment. His father, Reverend Gwyon, is a minister who returns from a trip to Spain, totally transformed.
Yeah, and it's not just the Reverend who's changed. The parsonage itself undergoes a transformation. It becomes a reflection of the Reverend's newfound fascination with religious artifacts and artwork.
See, before the trip, the parsonage was probably very traditionally Protestant,
Right.
reflecting Aunt May's strict beliefs. She's the Reverend's unmarried sister and Wyatt's aunt, and she's a real stickler for tradition.
Yeah, and her disapproval of these changes really highlights the clash between her worldview and the Reverend's kind of evolving interests. It's like he's replacing the old Protestant symbols with these pieces of Catholic and even pagan history.
So, like, he replaces a painting of Sir Galahad, for example, with a cross that has mirrors on it, swaps taxidermy birds for a statue of a Spanish saint. And that statue's been defaced, by the way. He even covers a painting of an elk with a print of a Bruegel painting.
It's almost as if he's trying to merge these different religious traditions to find a connection between them.
But what's so fascinating is that he never really explains this to anyone,
Right.
least of all Wyatt.
Right. Which leaves young Wyatt growing up in this incredibly charged and confusing environment.
Right. No wonder he develops into such a complex character.
Even in these early glimpses of his childhood, we see signs of rebellion, a fascination with the macabre, and perhaps a longing for his absent mother.
We see him acting out in little ways, emptying his potty into a floor register, singing a saloon song, questioning religious practices. It's almost like he's testing the boundaries, trying to figure out where he fits in.
But there are also these darker, more unsettling moments, like
Yeah.
the incident with the moorhen and his anxiety about the family crest. These moments suggest a deeper unease, a sense of displacement that goes beyond just childhood rebellion.
That's so interesting. So we have this clash of religious traditions, and Wyatt is caught in the middle, trying to make sense of it all.
And it's within this context that we encounter one of the most intriguing elements of these excerpts, Heracles the monkey.
Oh, yes, the monkey, this heathen creature that's forced to live in the carriage barn. It definitely stands out.
It does. And while the text doesn't explicitly state its symbolic meaning, there are some fascinating hints that connect Heracles to the absence of Wyatt's mother, Camilla.
So, for example, Aunt May is the one who insists that the monkey be kept separate from the house, almost as if it represents something she finds distasteful or dangerous.
And remember, she never fully accepted Camilla, who died when Wyatt was very young.
Right. It's like the monkey becomes this stand-in for Camilla, a reminder of something lost and perhaps even feared.
Especially when you consider that passage from Buffon's Natural History that describes the barber ape as having this sullen and solitary disposition. It almost seems to foreshadow Wyatt's own personality.
So we're seeing this theme of displacement emerging in different ways through the clashing religious imagery in the parsonage, through Wyatt's own rebellious acts, and now through this strange, isolated monkey.
Exactly. And that sense of unease is further amplified by the recurring phrase, cave, cave dominus videt. Beware, beware, the Lord sees. It's almost as if there's this unseen force constantly watching and judging.
Right. And that feeling is especially strong in the scenes where Wyatt is secretly copying Bosch's painting of the Seven Deadly Sins.
Here we have a young boy obsessed with recreating a masterpiece that depicts humanity's deepest flaws. What do you think Gaddis is trying to convey with this image?
Well, it makes you wonder if Wyatt sees himself reflected in those sins, or if he's trying to understand something about his own father who seems to be grappling with his own internal conflicts.
That's a great point. And the fact that Wyatt keeps this project a secret adds another layer of complexity. He's hiding this part of himself, perhaps afraid of what it reveals.
And then there's Grin's reaction when he finally discovers the copy. Instead of addressing the subject matter, he focuses on the technical aspects, the lines of perspective. It's almost like he's deliberately avoiding the emotional weight of the image.
It speaks to a disconnect between father and son, a failure to truly see and understand each other.
It's like they're speaking different languages, even though they're living in the same house, surrounded by the same religious imagery.
And it's not just Wyatt and his father. We see this kind of disconnect in Wyatt's relationship with Esther, his wife.
Right, yeah.
She's an aspiring writer full of energy and ambition, but she finds herself increasingly frustrated by Wyatt's seeming lack of direction.
It's like she wants him to be more like Otto, the young man who kind of enters their lives and stirs up all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, Otto represents a very different approach to art in life. He's driven by a desire for recognition and success, while Wyatt seems content with his more solitary pursuits.
Right. He works as an architectural draftsman, flawlessly copying the work of others, and even in his own artwork, he's drawn to the act of replication, as we saw with the Bosch painting.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if this obsession with copying is a way for him to avoid confronting his own originality, his own unique voice.
That's a good point. It's like he's afraid to step out of the shadows of his influences, to create something truly his own.
And his father doesn't really help the situation. He keeps giving Wyatt these books and pamphlets about martyred artists, further fueling Wyatt's anxieties about artistic greatness.
Right, almost as if he's saying, this is what true art demands. This is what you should aspire to.
And remember that passage where Wyatt talks about the vanishing point, where all lines converge? It's like he's searching for that point in his own life, a moment of clarity and purpose.
But the more he tries to find it, the more elusive it seems to become.
Especially when he's surrounded by people like Otto, who seem to have it all figured out.
But does Otto really have it figured out? Or is he just putting on a performance?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of this theme of authenticity that we've been talking about. Is Otto genuinely ambitious, or is he just trying to impress Esther?
Right, and Esther herself is struggling with this idea of authenticity. She wants to be a successful writer, but she also wants to be seen as intelligent and sophisticated.
So she surrounds herself with books, not necessarily because she loves reading them, but because they represent a certain image.
Exactly. It's like she's using them as props, just like she's using her relationship with Wyatt to enhance her own sense of self.
And when she realizes that Wyatt isn't going to fulfill her expectations, she turns to Otto, hoping he'll be the key to unlocking the life she desires.
Right, and their conversations are filled with these big ideas, these complex philosophical concepts like quiddity. That's the essence of something. For those who need a refresher, it's all very heady and intellectual.
But is it genuine? Or are they just playing a game trying to impress each other with their wit and knowledge?
It's hard to say for sure, but there's definitely a sense that their relationship is built on shaky ground.
Especially when you consider the revelation that Wyatt had questioned Otto's sexuality. It's a moment that reveals a lot about both men.
It shows that Wyatt is projecting his own insecurities onto others, perhaps because he's afraid to confront those same feelings within himself.
And it shows that Otto is aware of these societal taboos, even if he doesn't explicitly address them.
It's a subtle reminder that we're reading a novel set in the McCarthy era, a time when homosexuality was deeply stigmatized.
And that societal pressure adds another layer of complexity to the character's search for authenticity.
Right. It's like they're not just trying to figure out who they are, but also who they can be in a world that dictates what's acceptable and what's not.
And that struggle becomes even more apparent in Esther's behavior. She drinks more and more, trying to escape the mounting tensions in her life.
That scene in the Spanish restaurant is so intense. The flamenco music playing in the background underscores the raw emotions simmering beneath the surface.
Yeah, it's like a soundtrack to their unraveling.
And that line she quotes from the song Amigo Muerte Sinigo, life without a friend, death without a witness. It's heartbreaking.
It speaks to the profound sense of isolation that permeates the novel. Even when surrounded by others, these characters feel utterly alone, unable to truly connect.
Even her confession of love for Wyatt feels more like a desperate plea than a genuine expression of affection.
Exactly. She's clinging to him, hoping he'll somehow save her from herself.
But he's just as lost and confused as she is.
Remember that dream he has about footsteps arriving too soon in the parsonage? It's like a premonition of something unsettling, a sense that the past is closing in on them.
And then there's that chilling childhood rhyme he wrote about death. It's clear that Wyatt is haunted by something, but he's unable or unwilling to articulate it.
And Esther's discovery of that rhyme only deepens her own anxieties. It's like she's realizing that the man she loves is a stranger to her.
And that awkward encounter at the art gallery where Wyatt pretends not to recognize her. It's a clear sign that their relationship is falling apart.
It's like they're drifting further and further apart, unable to bridge the chasm that's growing between them.
And then there's that bombshell revelation from John and Wyatt's old friend from the seminary. He tells Esther about Wyatt's troubled past, hinting at repressed desires and a fascination with the darker aspects of religion.
Yeah, it's a turning point for Esther. She's finally realizing the extent to which Wyatt has been keeping secrets from her.
And that scene where she burns the Christmas tree, it's like she's trying to destroy the past, to erase the pain and confusion that's been building up inside her.
But the past can't be so easily erased. It lingers, shaping their present and casting a long shadow over their future.
So we have these characters searching for authenticity, but constantly bumping up against the limitations of their own identities and the pressures of society.
And the more they try to define themselves, the more elusive their true selves seem to become.
It's almost as if Gaddis is suggesting that true authenticity lies not in achieving some fixed state of being, but is embracing the complexities and contradictions that make us human.
That's a fascinating thought. And it leads us to another crucial aspect of these excerpts, the way Gaddis explores the creative process itself.
Right, we see this most clearly in Wyatt's obsession with copying, but it's also present in Esther's aspirations as a writer and even in Otto's ambitions as a playwright.
Each character is grappling with the tension between the desire for recognition and the pursuit of genuine artistic expression.
And it's not always clear which impulse is driving them.
Take Wyatt, for example. He's clearly talented, but he seems content to remain in the shadows, replicating the work of others.
Is it because he's afraid of failure? Or is it because he finds a strange sense of satisfaction in the act of copying itself?
Remember that scene where he reveals his copy of the Bosch painting to his father?
Yes, and Gwyn, instead of engaging with the subject matter, focuses on the technical aspects, the lines of perspective.
It's a missed connection, a failure to truly see and understand the art and perhaps each other.
And it's interesting how that scene mirrors Esther's criticisms of Otto's playwriting. She accuses him of being more interested in commercial success than in creating something truly artistic.
So we see this theme recurring in different ways. The pressure to conform to achieve recognition, to create something that will please others.
And it's against this backdrop that Wyatt's artistic struggle takes on an even deeper resonance.
He represents a kind of purity, a devotion to craft that transcends the desire for fame or fortune.
But is that enough? Can art exist in a vacuum, or does it need an audience, a context to give it meaning?
That's a question Gaddis leaves us to ponder.
And it's a question that becomes even more complicated when we consider the ways in which these characters' lives start to intertwine.
Right. The lines between them begin to blur, almost as if they're becoming reflections of each other.
Like when Otto shaves using Wyatt's electric razor.
Exactly. It's such a symbolic act, almost like he's trying to step into Wyatt's shoes to take on his identity.
And then there's that image of the handkerchief drying on the mirror. A remnant of Wyatt's presence, even in his absence.
It's a subtle reminder that even when we try to distance ourselves from others, their influence lingers, shaping our thoughts and actions.
It's like they're all caught in this web of interconnectedness, unable to escape each other's gravitational pull.
And as the story progresses, that web becomes even more tangled, leading to a series of unsettling events that leave us questioning everyone's motives.
Like when Esther reveals that she and Wyatt can't leave for Spain because of his mother.
It's a moment that highlights the inescapable weight of the past, the way it shapes our present and limits our choices.
And then there's that final scene where Benny Wyatt's coworker tries to find him in the dark streets near the docks.
It's a haunting image, almost as if Wyatt is disappearing into the shadows, becoming a ghost of his former self.
It leaves us wondering what will become of him. Will he succumb to the darkness that seems to be closing in? Or will he find a way to break free and forge a new path?
Those are questions we'll have to explore further as we delve into the final part of our deep dive.
You know, it's fascinating how these excerpts, even without the full context of the novel, they raise so many questions about authenticity, about the masks we wear and the roles we play, the versions of ourselves we present to the world.
Yeah, and I think those questions become even more compelling when you consider the backdrop of post-war America that Gaddis sets his story in.
Right.
A time of rapid change, societal anxieties, a growing sense of disillusionment.
Right. It's like the characters are all trying to find solid ground in a world where everything feels like it's shifting beneath their feet.
And art in all its forms becomes this battleground for those anxieties.
You see it in Wyatt's struggles, of course. But it's also present in Esther's yearning for recognition and in Otto's ambition to create a commercial success.
It's almost as if they're all trying to find a way to make their mark, to leave something behind that will outlast them.
But what does it really mean to create something lasting, something authentic in a world that's so saturated with imitations?
That's the central question that Gaddis seems to be wrestling with. Remember that passage where Wyatt talks about embellishing with gold leaf? Even something as precious as gold can be imitated, can be turned into a cheap facsimile.
Right. It's like he's saying that even the most valuable things can be corrupted, their meaning distorted.
And that distortion applies not just to art, but to identity itself. Think about the way Wyatt tries to disappear into the act of copying, almost as if he's trying to erase his own individuality.
Or the way Esther tries to fashion herself into a certain kind of writer, a certain kind of woman based on what she thinks other people expect of her.
They're all trapped in this cycle of performance, playing roles that don't quite fit, searching for a truth that seems just out of reach.
And that's what makes these excerpts so compelling, so unsettling. They force us to confront our own anxieties about authenticity, to ask ourselves how much of what we present to the world is genuine, and how much is a carefully constructed facade.
It's a question that has no easy answers, but it's a question worth asking.
Absolutely. And as you continue your journey through the recognitions, I encourage you to keep that question in mind, to look for those moments where the characters let their masks slip, where their true selves peek through.
Because it's in those moments of vulnerability, of imperfection, that we often find the most profound truths.
And who knows, you might even discover something about your own search for authenticity along the way. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the recognition.